So, the topic of today's webinar is really generating first-party leads, some of the changes that are happening in the lead generation world, and we're just going to dive into solution. How you can scale your own first-party traffic in your own lead generation machine. Quick little bit, 60 seconds, 30 seconds about me. I'm the founder of Elevarus. We're a digital marketing and growth marketing agency. I've been in marketing and tech for over 25 years. The last 12 years has been in lead generation and marketing, both in my own companies and within an agency facing forward-facing clients. And we have experience in multiple industries and multiple verticals, and I've launched, a few startups, over the last few years. But that's enough about me. What's really important is our team. So we've got an all-star team here. We've got myself. We've got Dan Graham, who's our full stack developer. We do a whole bunch of AI solutions and custom development. We've got Sunny Sukumar, who's head of data and analytics. Sunny, want to wave? We've got Lumen Tran, who's our creative director. We've got Andrew Nichols, who's one of our senior sales executives. We have Ethan Jenkin, who's our director of business development. He's got the flu that's going around. I'm sure he's on the call somewhere. And we have David Crump. If David, you want to give us a wave, who's head of content and web development. So that's the core Elevarus team. And what we're going to talk about today is really some of the pain points of third-party lead generation, and then we'll dive into solution. So the first pain point is just limited control over how leads are generated. In my own companies, I've consumed and bought probably hundreds of thousands of leads, and just over the years, every year, the quality gets worse and worse and worse with third-party lead generation, more and more fraud, more and more bullcrap, for lack of a better word, that goes on with dealing with, third-party leads. So that's kind of the first pain point. Second pain point is a lack over control of quality. You really have no control over what's being advertised, what the ad copy looks like. A lot of times with these third-party lead vendors, they kind of get you on the hook. They give you the good stuff in the beginning to kind of get you onboarded. If you guys have bought leads before, you probably have seen that. Like, the leads are great for the first month, and then month 2 and month 3, they get a little bit worse and they get a little bit worse. And that's kind of by design. And there's some other less scrupulous industries that kind of work the same way. There's no building of brand equity. Like, when you're buying third-party leads, you're building that publisher's or that affiliate's brand equity. If you're buying from LendingTree, if you're buying from FreeRate, these are great companies, by the way, but you're really building their brand. You're not building your own brand. There's no brand equity when you're buying third-party leads. And then this is a big one. Bad customer journey and customer experience. I'm sure you guys have gone on an insurance quote site or a mortgage quote site. You fill out your information. Mortgage is the worst, and you get 43 calls in the first 5 minutes, right? Same thing with insurance, same thing with solar. Like, you go to some of these lead generation sites, you're getting text messages, you're getting phone calls, you're getting emails. You're getting so much that most of these consumers, they're just like, screw this. Like, I'm giving up. Like, this is a horrible customer experience. When you put your information in, you get 40 phone calls. And then it even gets even worse, because after 30 days, that lead gets resold again to 10 or 15 other buyers. So you're getting 43 phone calls a day for the next 3 months, regardless if you're on the do not call list. And then the last one, and the big one, and we have some links in the notes here on how this is going to affect a lot of you guys, is changes related to TCPA privacy laws and opt-in consent. And just a disclaimer, we're not attorneys. We recommend speak with your attorney, speak with your compliance department, but just broad strokes on what some of these changes look like. So there's new guidance with the FCC on how the TCPA is going to be interpreted. And the biggest change is what's called a one-to-one opt-in. So the way a lot of these lead generation companies work, there is an opt-in, the consumer is opting in, But in that opt-in, it basically is giving consent to all of their partners and affiliates and affiliated companies, which is kind of a blanket opt-in to allow them to sell that lead to 3 or 4 or 10 buyers, whatever that number is. What the change is, and it has to be a one-to-one. So if it's your solar company or your mortgage company or your insurance company, whatever company that is, has to be explicitly on the opt-in for that particular service. So that's one of the big changes that's coming down related to the TCPA. You also have many TCPA laws that are in certain states, like Florida has its own mini TCPA law. And then you have privacy laws. California has a privacy law on how data is shared. And then the last thing that's changing with the TCPA, and we also have the notes on this in the deck that we'll share with you guys, is the FCC is going to change how they interpret an automated dialer. And up until this point, it basically had to do with if the numbers were generated sequentially, and there was a lot of gray area, but they're actually going to define an automated dialer that's going to be a lot broader of an interpretation to include potentially anything that has a CRM component, anything that has an AI component, anything that leverages technology where a person doesn't manually pick up the phone could be construed as an automated dialer. And definitely recommend you guys, I'm going to plug them, follow TCPA World. They break all this stuff down in detail. But these are some of the changes that are coming down the pipe. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Whether it's 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, the government, the FCC, the FTC has made it clear they want to put a stop to robocalls. They want the customer journey, the customer experience to be a lot better. And the whole direction of everything is going to be one-to-one opt-ins. And then the final pain point is really limited control of the creative or copy that's out there. And this is a big problem if you're buying third-party leads. There's a lot of incentivized media. So we can run an offer, for a $50 free gift card if you fill out this form. And there's publishers and affiliates that do that in all the industries, solar and mortgage and real estate. And people just fill out forms just to kind of get that incentivized, offer for the $50 gift card. You, as the end buyer of the lead, don't really realize that. You just know you have a bunch of shit, pardon my language, low quality leads that are coming through the platform. So, that's a big problem with third-party leads is, tailoring, having control over the creative copy and targeting that's being presented to your audience. So a lot of big problems that's in the third-party lead generation world. And we just want to talk here about solution. Like we just want to pack as much value as we can in this webinar, talk a little bit about how we generate leads, both for our own companies, for our agencies, and for our clients. And really, this slide deck for the legitimate companies out there that are doing third-party lead generation, this is how they're doing it. There's not some secret, lead fairy, lead dust they spread out there and leads come in. This is the exact way that they do it. These are the platforms they use, and this is how you can scale your own first-party lead generation. So the first thing we're going to dive into is Google Ads. If you were to picture a funnel, at the very bottom of that funnel in terms of intent would be Google Ads. These are people searching directly for your product or service. They're typically going to be very high intent buyers, high intent on the scale of being able to subscribe or sign up for your product or service. But there's a couple things you need to have in place to make sure you have a successful Google Ads campaign. And we're going to go through some of the top things that we see a lot of companies do wrong. The first one is have a landing page. You'd be surprised. It sounds basic, but you want to have a dedicated page that has one call to action, one objective that you want that consumer to do. Usually it's fill out a form or call a phone number, but you want to make sure you have a dedicated landing page for that specific offer or service. The second one, and this is a big one, you want to have good conversion tracking. huge, right? We run into a lot of accounts. First thing we do, open up the hood, see how Google is looking at conversions. And when we say conversion tracking, Google these days is very algorithmic. Everything's AI driven. So if you can train the algorithm to go after leads or to go after phone calls, the algorithm will get very good at doing that. But if you don't have any way for Google to know that, hey, this was a lead or this was a phone call, there's no way it can really optimize for what's important to you as a business, which that first objective might be leads or phone calls. The third thing is responsive ads. You want to have 15 headlines. You want to have 4 descriptions. You really want to give the AI enough ammunition so that it knows which ad to serve to the right person at the right time based on that particular search term. And responsive ads do that. And in the old days, we would kind of have like one-to-one ads. We'd have one description, one headline, and we would kind of split test, A/B test the different ad copy. Nowadays, that everything is AI driven, the AI will basically say, because Andrew likes vanilla ice cream and Sunny likes, chocolate ice cream, I'm going to serve this headline and description to Andrew. I'm going to serve this headline and description to Sunny, because each of them have a propensity to interact with those different headlines and descriptions. So the second thing here is you want to make sure, and this is a big one, and in the slide deck, when we send this out, we've got a video that's going to break all this down. So if you can't remember everything on this, we'll send this out after the webinar. But do this. If there's one thing, if you're running Google Ads in a lead generation environment, if you do anything, you're going to want to do these couple things. The first, disable search partners. So search partners is basically traffic outside of Google. They're third-party websites. It's kind of analogous to display ads. And every single time that we've tested this, it's nothing but AI traffic, bot traffic, and spam leads every single time. If you're in an e-commerce environment, it can work because you have a credit card as a gateway to a conversion, but the scammers and the spammers are able to, trick the algorithm to monetize their traffic. So disable search partners. The second thing is, if your industry is geolocated, which is the case with solar and mortgage and real estate, make sure you change this to people in or regularly in your targeted locations. By default, it's going to say people that are interested in your location. And what that means is it could serve ads to someone that might have searched for California in the last 3 months. It might serve an ad to that person because they showed an interest in your location, but didn't necessarily live in your location. So guys, take a picture of this, screenshot it, but definitely have your guys, your agency, your team check those settings. And then the last tip here is use some tools. We use SpyFu a lot. It's a great tool. I think it's like 99 bucks a month. You can kind of see what your competitors are doing. And then Google also released a tool called Ad Transparency. It's called Google Ad Transparency. You can literally go on the internet. We have it in the notes at the end of the deck, and you can literally see the exact ads that your competitors are running. It's a free tool. Definitely check that out. And that's a great way to see what your competition is doing. So that's kind of the breakdown of Google Ads. The next thing we're going to dive into is Meta ads. And Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, can really be all levels of the funnel. We're going to talk a lot about lead objective and a little bit lower in the funnel, but it can obviously drive both awareness and consideration. But the one thing about Facebook in particular, Meta, Instagram, and Facebook, is it's really good at doing whatever you tell it to do. So if you say, hey, I want to run a traffic campaign, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get a ton of clicks, but it may not convert necessarily to leads or phone calls. If you say, hey, I want to run an awareness objective, you're going to get that. You're going to get a bunch of awareness, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to convert to sales or leads. Generally, for most companies that are trying to generate leads, you want to run either a sales or lead objective right out the gate. The second thing And this is a huge gold nugget. We've tested this even with this webinar and getting 500 people to join. It's user generated style ads is what work. So like the days of like overly produced ads and kind of static image ads, like they still work and they still have their place. But just having either you as a founder with a cell phone, talking about your service, or you get a content creator to kind of, make it look organic, talking about your product or service. Even for this webinar, we did a simple video of me pointing my finger at the landing page, talking about what we were going to talk about on the webinar. It took me probably 7.5 minutes to create. And by far, that was our best performing ad. So more natural feeling ads, more organic feeling ads, that tends to be what works the best. And multiple creative, multiple copy. So within that ad set, have multiple UGC ads, layer in some of the image style ads, just have multiple ads. The days of kind of having like one ad set, one ad, and being very static or over, just like Google, Facebook is very AI, very algorithmic driven. Okay. The third tip here is there's been a shift to broader targeting. In the old days, we'd have all these very specific level interest targeting within Facebook. You can, thank the political system and Apple and privacy laws. That has kind of gone away. But what Facebook has done to kind of fill that vacuum in targeting is they've really improved their AI and their algorithm. And the AI has gotten very good at looking at your ad, looking at your landing page, looking at all the signals that are coming in from the matrix, so to speak, and figuring out who to serve ads to. So test it. We don't say, completely shift to broader targeting, but it's our experience that broader targeting tends to perform better for most industries, particularly if you architect the landing page in such a way that you can kind of have some qualification or qualifying questions within the landing page. The fourth one, check with your team, work with an agency, go on Upwork, find a resource, but you definitely want to set up server-side conversions, also known as CAPI, also known as Conversion API. We could do a whole hour just on that alone, but definitely, check with your teams, make sure you have that in place. And the last one, if you walk away with anything, this is just like Google on search partners, disable audience network if you're running any kind of lead generation campaigns. Audience network is basically display ads. They're ads that are being shown outside of the Meta ecosystem, so to speak. And every time that we've tested it, it's the same thing, that they're low intent or spam leads or AI generated leads that are coming through to basically trick the platform to show more ads on those owners' websites so they can monetize the websites. So if you do anything, definitely disable audience network. Test it, of course, but from our testing, that seems to be what performs the best. So that's meta ads. And I know there's a bunch of questions coming in. We're going to get to all of them at the end. We just want to be respectful of everyone's time. So next slide here, TikTok ads. So TikTok is no longer, teeny boppers doing dances. I mean, TikTok has grown up to be a very robust advertising platform on par with Facebook. We run a ton of TikTok ads. And a matter of fact, for this webinar, I think we had 170 people register from TikTok alone. Our cost per lead was slightly better on TikTok than it was on Facebook. But, TikTok, there are some best practices. We also have, I think, a 45-minute video breaking down TikTok that we're going to add in the slide deck here. But a couple things with TikTok, like with all the ad platforms, you want to make sure you have conversion tracking set up. So work with your IT person, work with your web developer, work with your agency, but figure out how you get conversion tracking set up with getting the pixel added to your site. TikTok is all UGC style ads. So you want the ad to feel native on the TikTok platform. So you want to have user generated content style ads. Again, you want to make sure you have conversion tracking set up. There's two ways to generate leads on TikTok. You can actually bring them to a native TikTok form that actually works pretty well. So that's something to test, or you can bring them to a landing page. we find you get a little bit higher quality leads bringing them to a landing page as opposed to a form, but both solutions are good. And we've tested the TikTok native form, and it actually performs pretty well, supports Zapier, so you can push that lead to any system that you want. And then this is important. If you walk away with anything, there's two ways to run ads on TikTok. The first way is what's called Spark Ads. And Spark Ads is basically I post a video on TikTok, on my TikTok, right? And I can make that video into an ad. Now, the cool thing about that is it comes from my TikTok account and it actually promotes that particular post. So I get a bunch of engagement, a bunch of likes, a bunch of comments on that post. The downside is it doesn't convert as well from our testing as setting up a custom identity ad. So a custom identity ad is basically you just set up your brand name. You don't need to run it from a TikTok page. You're just setting up like a ghost page, so to speak, inside of TikTok. You upload your logo and you upload your video, and it's not tied to like a specific TikTok account. We've seen those tend to convert a little bit better in terms of cost per lead, but the downside is you don't get the engagement that you would running Spark ads. And we break all this down in the video that we're going to attach out with the slide deck with screenshots and everything on how those two ads are set up. And the last thing on TikTok, TikTok's got the shortest time frame, so you need a good hook. You need like 3 seconds, I think, on average to capture somebody's attention on TikTok. So make sure you're thinking about a really good hook to kind of bring them in. All right. Next up, Microsoft, Yahoo, and Bing ads. And Bing is also very similar to Google. You want to make sure you have your conversion tracking set up. You also want to be super, super aware of this. Bing is a lot more susceptible to bot and AI traffic. We've seen this with a lot of clients. So if you are running Bing traffic, Microsoft, Yahoo, I think DuckDuckGo is part of Bing as well. You probably want to have CAPTCHA and just be mindful of the type of traffic because we have seen a little bit more bot spam traffic come on Bing. Older demographics we've seen do better on Bing because it does include the Yahoo ecosystem. And B2B in some cases perform a little bit better on Bing. Bing, Microsoft also is part of LinkedIn. So there is some LinkedIn targeting data that's available on the platform. And then just in general, in the enterprise space, if you're an enterprise customer, a lot of times the web browsers are still defaulted to Bing unless they have a policy to allow people to change that. So in the enterprise space, you may find that you get more search queries on the Bing platform from corporate campuses. And then the last thing to take away from Bing, the automated bid strategies are a little bit behind Google. So we recommend like keep your keywords tight, keep your phrase match tight. Just don't, automated bid strategies aren't as sophisticated as they are with Google. And that's basically the breakdown of Bing ads. All right, affiliate traffic. So, and some of you may be thinking in your head, like, how is affiliate traffic first party? And I'm going to explain this right now. So, affiliates are basically publishers, website owners, anyone that's got a curated audience that can drive traffic to your website, to your particular offer. And affiliate traffic can be very lucrative. And there's a lot of tools out there. There's Impact, there's Post Affiliate Pro. We just did an implementation with a client using Everflow. I believe Ringba, Bobberdoo, and Leadspedia also have the ability to track. But basically what you can do is you can go out to these people that have this audience that's similar to your audience and come up with a clear, terms for payouts, whether it's cost per lead. If you're an industry that you can do a rev share, maybe you set up a rev share. Maybe it's, whatever it is. Maybe it's, it's cost per client acquisition. But if they can be extremely lucrative because it's still first party, you're driving traffic to your offer and to your landing page, but you're able to kind of tie in a performance pay-per lead or pay-per acquisition component to it. And then I think the key with affiliates is you need to want to work with them. So make sure you provide a library of ad copy. You're providing the creative. You're building out the landing pages. You're basically just managing all those pieces for them. All they have to do is drive traffic to your offer, and affiliate traffic can be extremely lucrative. And the next piece here we want to talk about is referral partners. And there's a couple things here that you may not be thinking about that we're going to kind of tie in with some of the other concepts that we talked about. So think about referral partners as building lead sources, not necessarily just generating leads. So, and referral partners can be companies adjacent to your business, right? So in mortgage, I mean, everyone knows obviously a real estate agent is a referral partner. But in mortgage, a financial planner could be a referral partner. Divorce attorneys could be a referral partner. In solar, right? Roofing companies could be referral partners. Siding companies could be referral partners. Other general contractors could be referral partners. So think about that in the context of your business on how you can build those out. And if you're in an industry where you can do a commission, you can do split fees, set up a lucrative commission program. Like we have a super lucrative commission referral program for our agency. We pay the highest amount we would pay on a cost per acquisition because there really isn't much bandwidth for us. Like we build the relationship, they hand deliver us a client, and we pay top dollar for our cost of acquisition to acquire that client. So build something out that's lucrative, pay on time and pay fast for those referrals if you're able to do that. And then set up reciprocity, right? Figure out how you can solve your referrals or your reference problems. That may be marketing support, that may be operational support. There may be other ways that you can kind of sales support. There may be other ways that you can add value to their business to help build that relationship for them to continue to drive clients to your business. And this is really important, train them on your product, train them on your sales process, spend, an hour a month with your referral partners, talk about new products, new services, new offerings, treat them as part of your team. And I guarantee you, if you do that, like you are going to be top of mind to them when they get a potential client that comes up that might be a good fit for you. And then this is a big one. Deliver, do what you say you're going to do. Huge. If you build these referral relationships, make sure you execute on what you say you're going to execute on. How we do it on time? 35 minutes, right on time. All right. And the last piece is outbound and outreach. And again, we're going to tie this with inbound marketing because it's still first party. You're still trying to get them to opt in to your own personal offer. I don't mean outbound and outreach by putting 100,000 records in Vici Dial and grinding through them. That's going to be a dead model in the next year. But intelligent, compliant outbound and outreach. So as far as email outreach is concerned, Google, Gmail, Office 365, all of the major email platforms have gotten a lot more sophisticated. They're using AI tools to basically, put emails into junk or spam. So if you're going to use email outreach, we highly recommend a tool, Instantly AI. We're not affiliates for them. We actually use them ourselves. But there's a way that you can architect a campaign, limiting the number of messages per day, keeping your engagement rate really high, and just, making the emails very conversational as opposed to like offer driven. So if you walk away from anything on the outreach email side, take a look at Instantly AI if you're not already using them for cold outreach. If you're using SDRs, VAs, appointment setters, as I mentioned before, make sure you're paying close attention to these TCPA laws. There's a lot of changes coming down the pipe. If you're using any kind of SMS system, like you have to have first party consent. And that's going to be true even if you're doing any kind of outbound outreach. You want to make sure you have first party consent, you have clear opt-in instructions on your landing page, and you have some sort of, some sort of token, IP address, Jornaya, trusted form, some way that if anything ever comes up that you're able to prove that that person opted in for your specific offer. And then the third is, and this is to tie back to your referral partners, like outreach can also be effective not just after going after leads, but you can kind of use that outreach engine, so to speak. Like if you have a call center, if you're already setting up appointments, if you're already doing cold email outreach, you can kind of use that same infrastructure and go out and try to target affiliates that can drive traffic, or go out and look for other referral partners, actual lead sources that can drive traffic to your organization. So that outreach infrastructure may not just be, generating leads, but that outreach infrastructure could also be leveraged to generate lead sources. And then the fourth one here, have a CRM. The best CRM is one you actually use every day. Have a CRM, use your CRM. There's a ton of good ones. Go High Level is good. HubSpot is good. Salesforce is good, but expensive. Zoho is good. They're all good, but you have to use it every single day. Have a good, solid sales script and have a good nurture process. I mean, the average is at least 7 to 10 touch points and probably a lot higher depending on the industry before a prospect becomes a sale. So you want to make sure you have multiple touch points throughout your sales process. And just keep in mind, like outreach takes time. I mean, realistically, if you're just starting to stand this up, it really does take 3 to 6 months on an outreach standpoint to get everything dialed in, to get your cold outreach, your CRM, your SDRs, your appointment setters. It takes 3 to 6 months to really build it. But once you execute on it, that will start to kind of flow through all of the other marketing efforts that you have within your organization. All right. So final thoughts, and then we'll open it up for a few questions. We have a few minutes left, so it's not if but when. If you haven't started to build your own first party lead generation, start now. Don't wait till 2 months before the deadline. I don't care if you use us, if you go on Upwork, if you hire a team, whatever you do, start now, because realistically, it's going to take you time to build it and optimize it. You don't want to be scrambling 2 months before these laws have changed to start building these things that in place. It's not a one person job. You're not going to just hire, the IT guy and have him build all this for you. I mean, all these people that are on the panel here all have various expertises in different disciplines. So it really does take a team, whether you outsource it or bring it in house or use VAs or an agency. It just isn't a one person job to build all these parts and pieces. And as I mentioned before, it's going to take time to really build and optimize and train the algorithms on conversion goals that are important to your business. It really does take 3 to 6 months to optimize. That doesn't mean you start spending money on Google ads and Facebook ads. You're not going to get leads, but training the algorithm to go after the type of leads that are going to convert, and then training the algorithm to go after more opportunities and deals, it just inherently takes time to be able to build and optimize that. And then the last is think omni-channel. Don't just think, hey, Google's better than Meta or Facebook is better than TikTok. It really is a blend of all these channels working together is where the secret sauce lies. And I'll give you a great example. Somebody may see a TikTok ad, not click on it, but then see an ad on Facebook, click on the ad, but maybe they don't convert. Then they see an ad on Google and they remember that they saw the ad on Facebook and TikTok and end up clicking on the Google ad and turning into a lead. It wasn't any one of those sources that took advantage of it. Our systems will tell you, hey, Google got credit for the conversion, but it was really a combination of all of those ads working together that pushed that prospect down the funnel, so to speak, into a conversion. So think omni-channel, think multiple paid traffic channels working together is really what's going to allow your business to grow or scale. So we got a bunch of useful resources. We'll send all these out, including videos and tips and tricks and everything after the call. This is not a pitch fest. I'm going to talk about this for 20 seconds. If you guys want to set up a call with us, there's a link in the deck. You can go to our website. We have both a foundational CMO package where we provide the guidance. We also operate on an agency model, which is standard retainer plus % of the ad spend. Again, we don't want this to be a pitch fest. Our goal was just to provide a ton of value on the call. So with that said, we're going to open it up for Sunny for Q&A for the next, we got about 18 minutes left. So we'll open it up with Sunny for any questions.
Thank you very much, Shane. And please show Shane some love in the either Q&A box or the chat, which is now open. Shane, some people want to know what specifically is the deadline that the FCC is imposing on this? And if someone isn't compliant, like what could actually potentially happen to someone? Because so many businesses are doing all kinds of things and they get away with it. But so when is the deadline and what could actually happen to someone who's not compliant?
Yeah, so the latest guidance is it's the end of this year and when the changes are going to be implemented. Originally, it was 6 months from January, but some of the attorneys at TCPA World kind of lobbied the FCC to get some feedback from small businesses on how it's going to impact them. The latest guidance is it's the end of the year, December 31st. Now, as far as impact, it's an unknown question if it's going to be additional civil penalties, if there's going to be criminal penalties. Nobody really knows how that's going to play out, but there definitely is going to be a lot more regulation and a lot more tools at attorneys' disposals to go after companies that aren't doing this the right way.
Okay, thank you, Shane.
Absolutely.
And you covered a number of channels. We're getting a couple of questions that are related to like how do you know how to allocate your spend? Like where do you start? How do you know what channel to start with and then
Yeah.
scale from there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some of it is industry specific, and some of it is just depending on where that kind of business is and their growth curve and where they're at and what their goals are as a business. As a general rule, I typically go for Google PPC as a starting point because, again, it's lowest in the funnel. It is expensive, but I know that, hey, if I got people searching for, find a solar installer near me, if I'm in the solar business, or, uh, you know, uh, find insurance near me if I'm in the insurance business, like that click and that call is going to be pretty high in the intent scale. So we typically will start with Google. Sometimes it changes depending on industry and where that company is at. And then we'll usually morph into a combination of Facebook and TikTok, both to generate, high intent leads, but also to remarket and retarget all that traffic that's coming to the website. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this, like you're on, I don't know, Expedia looking at a vacation, or you maybe went to the mall or whoever. And the next thing you know, in Facebook, you've got ads for those pair of shoes. If you got ads for that vacation that you were looking at, right? So that remarketing and retargeting, a lot of that happens in Facebook and TikTok. So usually that's the next platform that we'll kind of bolt on from there. But it depends. If a company's just starting out, or if a company is higher up in that growth curve and needs a lot of scale, we may blend in some other these strategies simultaneously.
Okay. So you're emphasizing the intention scale, and that's often highest on Google. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So that's often a good place to start. It's often where we start as an agency
Yeah.
for that reason and then build out from there, right, Shane?
Yep. 100%.
What is Google responsive ads? Is that the type of new channel or what is that?
Yeah, so responsive ads, are basically an extension of where Google was trying to create like AI-driven ads. So think of responsive ads as a container where you put a bunch of headlines and descriptions. And Google is going to choose that particular headline or that particular description based on a bunch of data it has at that particular moment on who's searching, what they're searching for, where they're searching. So Google is able, instead of like having 10 different ads with all these different ad copies that you have to manage, you can basically put all the headlines, all the descriptions in one ad and kind of let the AI and algorithm optimize which ads to select, what order to select them in, and how to present that copy.
Okay, so it's AI driven. Is that fair to say?
It's AI driven, not, but you still have control, right? It's not 100. We're not quite there yet. Like it's not the AI coming up with your headlines. You still need to carve out the copy and the ad copy, but you're giving the AI all of the tools on which ad to display to who, if that makes sense.
Okay. We're also getting a question. Thoughts on YouTube ads for all of
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. So YouTube, very effective. Great for both remarketing and prospecting. I think the key with YouTube is either very short bumper style ads, very short, non-skippable ads, or a combination of a little bit longer form copy, 60-second video ads. But both of those are served on the Google Ads platform. So when we talk about YouTube, we're actually still talking about Google Ads because managing the YouTube ads, the conversion pixels, all the infrastructure we build inside of a Google Ads account is also how we'll pull the levers for YouTube.
Okay. Gabriel has a question. Is opt-in different for B2B, which is business to business, versus B2C, which is business to consumer?
It's a gray area. And I'm not even sure the attorneys really know what the answer to that is. And it's a gray area because of this. Like I'm a business owner, but my personal cell phone is where how a lot of people connect to me. If somebody solicits me on my business line and it rings to my cell phone, it could still be construed as a B2C call. And then in the TCPA itself, there really isn't a delineation as far as auto dialers are concerned between B2B and B2C. And it's still something that's kind of a gray area in terms of like how the law is being construed. Obviously, check with attorneys, check with your compliance team. I would kind of err on the side of caution, particularly if you're in an automated dialer environment or any kind of automated text campaigns to get opt-ins,
Okay.
or at the very least scrub against the do not call list.
Better to be safe, right?
Yeah,
Sean has a question on the about the previous thing you were talking about with Google responsive ads. Do you have any AI recommendations for building out headlines for the responsive ads?
we do. So we use ChatGPT, but let me put some qualifiers on that. You really have to give ChatGPT a lot of inputs to kind of help with that. So we use it as a tool. Our process might look like this. It's a small piece of that process. So we'll look at competitors, we'll look at SpyFu, we'll look at a bunch of other resources and kind of use ChatGPT as a way to get some ideation on headlines and descriptions. But at the end of the day, we're still, using that human element to, fine tune it and get the kind of iron out the AI and chat GPT speak out of it. But to answer the question, chat GPT using SpyFu, looking at what competitors are doing, all those tools put together can put together some great ad copy.
So the more you know your market, the better you can get AI to work for you because you're giving it quality inputs and then it can help you get variations. And then the variations that ChatGPT or another AI tool gives you, you can gauge for yourself, hey, would my target customer actually or target prospect resonate with this messaging, right?
That's right.
So it's not a substitute for not knowing your customer. You definitely want to know your customer still, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Like you can even try to feed, ChatGPT, say act like a Google Ads expert. Here is my ideal customer profile or your client persona, and you may have a 3-page PDF that breaks out who that is, and then maybe train it on some of your posts, your tone of voice, right? Feed it all that, and then say, hey, based on all this, come up with 5 descriptions and or 4 descriptions and 15 headlines, and then that gives you some ideation. It's not going to be perfect, but then you can kind of massage that and turn it into some winning ad copy.
That is a great strategy. I've seen that used very effectively to get the AI to actually see from a particular perspective. Like a 35-year-old woman who's interested in cosmetics and frustrated because she couldn't get a certain type of mascara to work and it's not organic, etc. And then please write some headlines for that person. And it's pretty amazing what AI can come up with.
Exactly. Now, if you just say, hey, hey, act like a Google Ads expert and write ads on mascara, you're just not going to get good quality, right? The AI just doesn't know how to react to that. But if you did like Sunny articulated and really feed it enough data for it to be able to build that around that client persona, that's where ChatGPT can shine.
Yes. Kevin has a question. Is there any way to get TCPA compliance from someone who visits a landing page, clicks a phone number on that landing page, basically a click to call,
Yep.
no form fill?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that definitively. I mean, I would check, with TCPA world and see what, some good attorneys we can recommend. The non-technical legal answer is I think you would have to have an IVR that the customer would have to press one to explicitly grant permission to follow up with text messages. There is a carve out if you have an existing business relationship with that consumer. What that exactly means, work with your attorney and your compliance department. But if it's just an inbound call, you want to get TCPA consent. My guess is you would have to have an IVR or some sort of recorded message with your agents granting consent.
Okay. So that's one that you definitely want to check with the lawyer on that.
Yeah.
And we have some of the experience that Shane is referring to. At the same time, this is a shifting ground, and that's why you want to check on this stuff. Because even for us, we're constantly consulting with the legal side of things so that we can make sure that we're staying compliant with everything that's happening and changing.
Yeah. The other
Um,
way you could do it too is on the landing page, have an opt-in consent, then show them a phone number, but you would still need some way to prove that that particular person opted in if anything ever came up.
okay, makes
That's a
sense.
great question.
We got a couple of questions about Go High Level versus Instantly.ai.
Yeah.
Where would you use one versus the other for deciding for email,
Sure.
outbound
Um,
email?
so they both have different use cases. I would use Instantly AI for your cold outreach, particularly for B2B. That's where it's strong at. Cold outreach on B2C just gets challenging because of just inherently, as they're mostly Gmail, AOL, and Hotmail addresses, but specifically B2B, definitely look at Instantly AI. And then you get them to engage. Then once they engage, then create that and go high level. And then maybe you're going to bring them into an offer with an opt-in. It could be a free report, could be a webinar like this. Everyone that attended this webinar had to opt in. So maybe you provide something of value to get them to opt in. Then as soon as they opt in, that goes into go high level. And then you have your email nurtures and your text message nurtures and everything else built inside of go high level. But what Instantly does really, really well, even better than go high level, is that cold email outreach component, particularly for B2B.
Okay. And Kevin had a second part of his question, which you basically just covered because he has a client that's doing lead gen for mass tort and they want to reactivate old names on the email list. So that would be probably a use case for go high level as long as it's not too old or you might get in spam trouble or something like that. But and then there's a second use case where he has a campaign of 7,000 records to a larger list. And it sounds like those are not opt-in records yet. And so that would be a case for instantly.ai because that'd be more cold outreach.
Exactly. And then, on the opt-in, there's a bunch of ways to do that. If you have opt-in, you can use AI. So there's a bunch of ways to do that. And then from a paid advertising standpoint, especially with mass tort, where there's high revenue potentials around those type of cases, I would bring that into a remarketing audience on Facebook, TikTok, Google, and just a top of mind awareness on that list across all the digital channels, in addition to whatever you're going to do to reactivate that list.
Makes sense. Shane, with all this AI stuff and algorithms, like how do you tell the algorithm what it's supposed to be looking for, who it's supposed to be looking for?
It's a great question. So when we first engage with a client, a lot of times that first conversion goal is going to be a phone call or a lead, right? It's the only, especially, and I'm talking specifically around any company that's in a lead generation environment. Now, once we get enough calls and leads, we can kind of start to train the AI to go after what's known as a target CPA to generate that call or lead. But it's kind of a vanity metric, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not calls or leads that drive revenue for our businesses, it's sales. So over time, as we start getting enough data, there may be things lower in the funnel. It could be an appointment, it could be proposal sent, it could be contract sent, but there might be things that happen lower in your sales process that we can send those events back to the ad platforms and say, hey, don't just optimize for a call or a lead. Now I want you to start optimizing for appointments or proposals sent or opportunities created. And then we can also set a target CPA around that. And then over time, we can eventually, once we have enough sales that have come in from the ad platforms, this is where the real magic starts to happen. We can not only train the AI and say, hey, I want you to go after more actual sales, but we can pass either the revenue amounts or the gross margin or even the profit amounts of those sales back to the ad platforms and start training the ad platforms to really optimize for actual revenue, actual client value. And that's usually the steps that we'll take. So in the beginning, it's leads and calls, and then over time, as we start getting enough data, we can go a little bit lower in the funnel on appointments or contracts or proposals. And then once we have enough data coming in there, we can actually optimize for sales, and then of course optimize for revenue.
Okay. And for these other platforms, especially the social platforms, what are some tools you recommend for being able to create the ads, what's known as the creative, fast and without just massive amounts of work?
Yeah, Lumen, what's for the UGC? What's the gold nugget that we're using for UGC ads right now? Kind of put Lumen on the
A lot
spot.
of the UGC ads right now are about what the experience has been like, whether it's with an agency or it's with a product. And we like to we like to try to tailor it towards that demographic. So if it's a millennial demographic or if it's a Gen X or a Gen Z, and really just warm, engaging personalities who sound like real people. So gone are the days of looking like a professional model or a professional spokesperson. They want real people who look like it might be your neighbor, it might be your aunt, it might be your dad, it might be your grandpa. So back
And
to your point about ads that are just very, very engaging, the engagement now is not curated, but just very real, very approachable, and nothing that looks like it's too overly produced.
and what's the tool? What's the service that we're using for a lot of our clients for that?
Well, we're currently using something called Billow, but within the last 6 months, there have been a whole other assortment of platforms that we've been diving into. And
Nice.
Billow has been great for certain demographics if you're looking for something about millennials. But what we're finding with a lot of, say, our homeowner audience, you want something that's going to go maybe Gen X to baby boomer. So
Yeah.
we're looking into influencers who are just not just within that younger demographic. And I think for anybody who's wanting to start an agency, that's a great audience and a great target because that's not something that I'm finding right now that's
Yeah.
available there. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's super helpful. And we'll drop some of those in the notes in the deck. The other two tools that we've been kind of experimenting with, and we'll drop them in the notes as well. I think it's opus.ai and video. We'll drop them in the notes. Both of them are kind of AI tools that you can take long form content, create like short form ads out of. So that's a great way to, those are some great other social tools to help scale some of your content strategy.
So that's Opus, OPUS. Video is
Why?
VIDYO.
That's
Is it
correct.
.ai?
That's correct.
And then another tool that's becoming popular is Descript. I think it's Descript.
Yep.
And then there's a number of other tools out there, but even just those, you can go pretty far for social content with those tools. And of course, just using your camera phone to shoot videos quickly, and then to use those tools to edit, and then to process and upload.
Yeah.
Anything else on those?
I think that's it. I mean, those are obviously there's a tool for everything these days. Sometimes it can be tool overload, but it's just kind of think of your assembly
Too
line
many.
tool overload. Just to think of your assembly line, right? And you've got, you have a tool for each of those pieces to start cranking out content.
Yes. And speaking of tools, what does CRM stand for, and how do you actually pick a good one? Because there's so many these days.
CRM stands for customer relationship management. Really depends on your business. All of them have their pros and cons. My favorites are Go High Level, HubSpot, Zoho, and Salesforce. Full disclosure, we are a HubSpot partner, so we're a little bit more biased towards them. All of them have their kind of their pros and cons. But any of those are good platforms. Like I said before, the most important thing is it's something that you guys use every day, keep up to date, because you could have the best, most expensive CRM in the world, but if the salespeople don't keep it up to date, it doesn't do anyone any good.
We see Andrew nodding his head because he's one of our sales pros who's really on top of things and likes to do things the proper way. And that's super helpful because then the entire team benefits from that information. We can all service that prospect or customer that much better.
Sure.
Question on the AI again. Would ChatGPT shine? This is in quotes. Shine if you wanted to reach another language market, or does it even matter with AI?
Actually, yes. So we've tested this. We tested ChatGPT. We have a client of ours that is in the Spanish Medicare space, and we actually tested like translating ad copy and landing pages in Spanish. We sent it to them, and I don't even think we told them, or maybe we did tell them it was AI. We said, hey, like, and they spoke Spanish. It was their first language. And they're like, man, this is perfect. This is exactly how a natural speaking Spanish speaker would talk. So we've seen it do very well across multiple languages. We actually have a sister company that is an AI company with conversational voice and conversational text. And we've asked the AI, start speaking in Spanish, and it transitioned perfectly without any training and was able to handle that language like it had been talking in that language from the beginning.
And some of you interacted with that conversational AI because that's what we use to send the text for this webinar.
That's right. So ask it anything. We're gonna do another webinar next month on conversational AI and conversational voice. Pretty much everyone here should have got it. Ask it anything. It's a new product that we're getting ready to go to market with.
Okay. We got a couple of hard-hitting questions about agencies, and we know so much
Love
BS
it.
comes from the agency world.
Yep.
So this is actually a good thing you guys are asking this. Alan asks, our biggest issues are with our current agency, we have no transparency as to what is being spent on the ads and what is going towards agency fees. So spend on the ads versus what's being taken as agency fees. How do you manage the ad spend?
Great question. And I'll preface the answer, and I know we guys have a couple minutes left, but I'll preface the answer with our agency really started as a support mechanism for our own businesses, for my own businesses, and just spun out as its own entity because I just got tired of dealing with agencies. And a lot of agencies will work where they kind of manage the spend in a black box. So they'll say, hey, it's 20,000 a month, right? And you don't really know like what percentage of that money is going to media buys, what's going to fulfillment, and what's going to the agency. The way that we operate is you pay the ad platforms directly. You're paying for it, goes against your credit card. We just charge a management fee on whatever spend that we manage. Plus, we have a minimum retainer for the team and all the work that we do. But you have 100% visibility. You own the ad accounts, you own the landing pages, you own all the intellectual property. So just by default, you have visibility. And then we also have a platform where we have visual reports and KPIs. You can log in, see all of your ad spends on Yelp, Google, Facebook, TikTok, everything at a click of a button. And if you're looking at agencies, whether you use us or not, ask that question. Like, how do we see the ad spend? What dashboards do you use? If they're not willing to give that to you, and if they say, hey, we own the ad account, that's a big red flag. At the end of the day, you should own the ad account, you should own the creative, and you should own the landing pages and never be held hostage by an agency.
It's a good way of saying it because that's how clients feel when they don't
Yeah.
have control over their own. They feel like they're losing control over their brand and they don't know what's happening with their budget.
Yep.
And this stuff is hard enough when you have full transparency to see like what's producing what result. So it really needs to be transparent enough, and there needs to be enough conversations you're able to have with your agency to understand what's going on. It's one of the reasons why we're doing this training and plan to do others is because there's so much lack of transparency in the industry, and it's really sad.
Yeah, 100%.
Shane, any closing thoughts? I know we're right at time.
No, I think the closing thoughts is we just appreciate, all of the tremendous demand for this. I mean, we didn't think we had to actually take off the limit. We had over 500 people register. I didn't see what the count was, but I think we're close to 200 or change, a little less than 200 attended the webinar. So is a great turnout. If you want to set up a call with us to learn more, either about the foundational CMO package or agency model, there's a link in the deck. You can just go to elevarus.com, elevarus.com, set up a free strategy call, and we'll see if there's a good fit to help your businesses grow. And last, definitely follow us on social. So if you see us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, just give us a like or follow. We love comments as well. So if you have anything, if you found this was useful, feel free to email us. Anything that may come up after the fact, we're happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. We hope to see you on a future one.
All right.
And
thank you guys for everyone attending. Have a great day, and let's grow.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Have a great
Thanks,
rest.
guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.